Hi, everyone. You're listening to Live with Necee. I am your host, Opal Bailey. Are you facing anything impossible in your life that seemed to be overwhelming to you and you just don't know whether to give up, or you don't know when the relief is going to ever come, or if it's going to come, you know? And when I was thinking of this question, I thought of a friend of mine who is dealing with some physical issues in her life, and she was talking about how she's in this situation. She's dealing with MS, and she had an episode this weekend while we were together, and she was talking about, I've been in this so long, and I'm just don't know what to do, and and all this, and we were listening to her, and I was just thinking, God, nothing is impossible with you. Like, nothing is impossible in our life. And it may not come at the right time. The healing may not come at the right moment. Deliverance may not come when we want to have it, or even the good things or the things that we desire in our life. The healthy relationship might not come when we think it should be. We may not receive the desire of our hearts instantly. And it just reminded me of how God really sees patience. He really sees patience as a work. He really sees patience as us making a decision to wait on him, but in the waiting, continue to do what we need to do, but to trust him. And I often think about, if we're not patient, we'll find ourselves doing things in our own strength, doing things to kind of like, okay, God, you're not coming soon enough. So, okay, you need my help. So let me go ahead on and get this ball to rolling, because, you're kind of slow. And so then we move ahead of ourselves, and then we find ourselves coming right back and waiting on God anyway. I mean, I know this has happened to me plenty of times in my life. I want to get it done. I want it quick, because we live in a society where it's microwavable. We want everything fast, want everything now. It's a Burger King mentality. I want it my way. If I don't get it my way, then I'm going to find a way to get it, and it's going to be done eventually. And most of the time it's not done right, or it's not done in the way that we wanted it to be done, or the consequences is too heavy. And then we're right back to where we started before, and seeking God and saying, oh God, what's going on? Why did I do this? And what happened? And in talking with my friend, it just reminded me of God's love still is there. His presence still there. And you know what? He told us he'll never leave us. So for him to say he'll never leave us, that means he's always there, no matter what's going on in our life, no matter how impossible our life seems, or no matter how impossible your diagnosis is from the doctor, no matter how impossible your family members are, no matter what opposition you're facing, no matter what your job issues are, your friend's issue, or even your own personal issues, God says, I'm always there for you. And he said, nothing is impossible. Nothing. And as I was thinking of, my friend, and I was just encouraging her and letting her know, hey, nothing is impossible with God. It's just patience. And sometimes we don't want to wait. We don't want to go through the patience of the waiting. But even in that, God uses the patience to persevere us, to show us that we need a little backbone. We need a little waiting time. We need to be complete, and knowing that, hey, I can trust the Lord. Even in this situation, I may not understand what's going on, and I may be going through it for 5 years, 10 years, a month, 3 weeks, whatever it is. But, God is saying, hey, but just be patient. I see what's going on in your life. I'm not unaware of you. I just want you to be patient, because I'm working on your behalf. Even when we don't see him doing it, he's working on our behalf in the backstage, or in behind us. He's working behind stage, and he just like, I'm working this all out, because he promised he'll work all things out for the good of them who are called according to his purpose. And at the age of 18, for me, giving my life to the Lord, I can honestly, truly say that he has never failed me. He has never lied to me. There was not one time in my life when I could say, God wasn't truthful. There's not a time in my life when I say, you know what? He didn't really come through for me like he said he would. He came through. It may not have been the time I wanted. It may not have been when I wanted. It may not have been the way I wanted, but he came through. So let us allow patience to have his perfect work in us. Because when you look at what happens when we don't have patience, how we can move out on our own, sometimes we can mess stuff up even worse than what it is because we want to be the fix it people. We want to get it done. We want to have it done. And, God, you just follow my suit and let me show you how to do it. And this is what Abraham and Sarah had to go through. And this reminded me of their story as well. Here you have 100-year-old man. His name was Abram. And his wife's name was Sarai. And God told Abram, I'm going to change your name. And your name will be Abraham, and you will be the father of many nations, and you will be great. You will have descendants as many as the sand and the stars. And Sarai will be Sarah. She will be the mother of many. You will have your firstborn child. Now, he's 100 years old. Sarah was 90 years old. So already their situation is impossible. It's not possible. It's not medically possible. It's not biologically possible. It's not physically possible for a 100-year-old man and a 90-year-old woman to have a child naturally. Because even when God promised that, it also said in the word that everything had died in their bodies. There was nothing there, nothing. It was impossible for them to even conceive, period. Because everything was just dead. But God spoke a promise to him, and he said, I will make your name great. I will change your name. And he did the same thing to Sarai. Now, during this process of time, here we go, where we gotta do it ourselves because, God, you're taking long. God said he was going to do it. He said he was going to do it at this time. Well, it's taking too long, God. Okay, well, husband, you need to have, let's get a child our own way. Then they have a child. And then the circumstances of that from doing it their way caused Sarah to be disrespected, to be shamed in her town, because not only did the concubine had the child, the concubine also mocked Sarah because she didn't conceive. And during that time, when you don't have children, you're shunned upon. You're not respected. And so she went through all of the humiliation and embarrassment and the shame to the point that she got so angry. She went to Abraham and she said, hey, you got to get rid of this woman. She's embarrassing me. And eventually they sent her off. And she went wandering in the wilderness. No food, no nothing. And it just shows us an example of not being patient and waiting on God, and not understanding that in those times that we wait on the Lord, or in those times that we have to be patient about something, he's really teaching us how to depend on him. He's really showing us who we really are, what we are really made of. Are we going to be anxious and nervous and, fretful during the times that we don't have what we need to have? Because I can remember a time when I was with my girls and, and I didn't have the money to pay a bill, and, it was my light bill, and I know that the lights would be out and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, help me to get the light bill, help me get the money for the light bill. And I'm walking the floor I'm like, oh, so I get to, God wasn't coming fast enough for me. So I went calling around, and then nothing. I couldn't get, it was like doors was closed. Nothing. I couldn't get nothing. And then I had to sit and say, okay, Lord, I get it. You want me to depend on you. So, okay, I'm trusting that you will provide again for me. And out of the blue, a friend of mine called. I was on her heart. She said, hey, I want to come by and give you something. I have this to give you. And it was the amount for my light bill. But before then, I was a mad woman running around the house, all upset, frantic, sweaty, and just like, oh my gosh, Lord, what's going on? Da, da, da. And all the time I could have he was teaching me. This is what's going on in you. You need to chill out. You need to relax. Learn to rest in me. Learn to rest in the promises that I said, I'll never leave you. Never forsake you. He would never turn his back on us. Never. We may not understand everything that he's doing, but it's okay for us not to understand everything that he's doing, because we don't have to understand everything that he's doing. We just have to know that he said he's doing a good thing in our lives. And even though it may not feel good at that moment, it may not look good, the situation may seem so bleak and hopeless. But if we just turn and we just trust God and we just allow ourselves to let him be who he is in our life, we can see that our life could be so enriched. That the very thing that he teaches us, character, perseverance, endurance, having fortitude, having a backbone, it would teach us so much in our everyday life. Just out of being patient would teach us so much. It will make our work complete. He said it will complete us to where we won't lack anything. That when hard times come, we can stand. When situations come that it may not be as pleasant, you may not know what's going on, it may be hurting, you may be sick, and you may have been sick for years. But God will provide that opportunity. He will open up that door. There's nothing impossible to him. He said, is there anything too hard for him? So in that process of Abraham and Sarah waiting, they understand the consequences of their action. They went before God and they did what they wanted to do. And so now they're dealing with the concubine who came back and lived with them. And now Sarah has to face this woman with a child by her husband, and she's upset because she don't have a child. And God, what's going on? What's happening? What am I doing? Look at me now. And then all of a sudden, a year later, God came and approached Abram and changed his name to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah. And God said, you will have a son and you will name him Isaac. And that is exactly what happened. They birthed out of their body. The body said that God touched their body. And they gave birth to their own son. So Abraham had an inheritance. He had a legacy that he left by. Sarah's promise was fulfilled. And I believe this story is so significant in our lives when it comes to our personal development, because we tend to not want to be patient. We tend to not allow these things in our life to shape us. And it's really shaping us and really showing us who we really are and where we are at a point in our life to where we can really grow in this. We can really advance in this. We can really be all that God called us to be and do. And we just trust him and just know that he is in control. And as we allow him to just have his way, and if we just trust him and know that it's patience that he's teaching us, and to be patient. And sometimes patient isn't easy. And it's not pleasant. I'm not going to tell you it is pleasant. But what I will say is, from my own personal walk, from my own personal experience, raising 4 children, 4 girls,